it's a totally different persona. You don't want them having to dig through the prompts now to figure out if that's the correct way to go about it or if there's a better way.
We actually did do that at the start, and we realized that what happens is every customer would then create like idiosyncratic instructions that doesn't necessarily generalize. And so that's one of the you kind of want to build muscles that benefit everyone, and it's kind of like a compounding effect. And what we realized is that if we had that control on our side, it's harder at the start because the users have a poorer mental model, but it's better for us over time. And so to this point of like model collapse, we found that you can get to a good plateau or baseline that everyone benefits from, and the like general models like the GPTs, the drop and the sonnets, they help a little bit. But because these environments are so idiosyncratic, and there's no public data set, like I can't just ask you to export your whole company's like infra, right? It's nothing. So we contextualize what the agent can do, but we do it centrally. So based on performance metrics, we will say, oh, your agent has a certain set of skills that's different from another agent, but we can sub-select those. So maybe if you're running Datadog and Prometheus and you're running on Kubernetes and it's all Golang, we will not have like an agent's skill set that's for Python or these skill packs that are specific to technologies that don't apply to you. So we'll try and like delete or garbage collect memories or instructions as much as we can to simplify what the agent can do. So we've got a bunch of these techniques that if you look at our base agent, or our base product, it's the same, but we do contextually like modify that slightly. So the performance numbers for each customer can be higher. But that's also risky because then like the measurements don't always like aren't apple to apple, right? Yeah.
The other thing about exposing prompts, if you're building an application, is often when something is a little bit off, the first thing that people do is like go and like do some mucking around in the prompt.
And it makes it worse.
You've already gone through years of doing that, right? Like they just saw the prompt for the first day. And then like it doesn't make sense, right? It's like exposing, in a way, I really think prompts are like code. So it's like exposing your code base to the user. And it's like, no.
They don't need to see how the sausage is made.
I think it's like not a question of like proprietary secret sauce or whatever, but it's just like don't invite them to do something that's like bad for them.
And also if you give them that surface, then you can't really take it away. Then they will feel like, well, I've just spent this time doing this thing. Now you're just taking this away from me.
And I could see a world where they spend so much time and it ends up being like, wow, this actually was a waste of time. And this tool that was supposed to save me time is now taking me more time because I'm tuning these prompts and I'm trying to make the system work the best that it can. And so they're going under the hood, wasting time in that regard.
That's true. But sometimes users feel higher like sense of attachment and affinity to products that they've customized. If you change the colors, you put in dark mode, all those things, before you know it, like you'd like this product because it's yours, right? So there's this balance, but I wouldn't expose the prompts necessarily. Maybe just some color sliders or something.
It's so much easier. And actually, when you were talking about the different agent attributes, it reminds me of when you're playing any kind of like sports game and you have the sports player and it has that circle and what they're good at and what they're bad at. That's what I want to see with the different clerics that, all right, you have this agent and it's good at Golang, but Python, nope, the skills in Python, but it doesn't need it. That's the good part.
You should see our latest marketing. We have some things coming out soon that is in that vein. So
good
idea.
So
we should get you on the like brand team.
I love it. I love it. But anyway, what else were we going to talk about? I remember there was more items on the docket, right?
I was also kind of curious from Shreya's point of view. Like if you see failures in production from like, let's say users got something they're stuck with, do they give you like a data dump or how does that work? And what's that like end-to-end cycle for you? Like how quickly can you go from like a failure back into prod with a new version?
We don't have big like AI pipelines. Like we were building scaffolding for people to write AI pipelines. So it's very software engineering-esque. Like people will say that there is a bug, like there's an infinite loop here. And I'm like, okay, I'll fix it. And it's like TypeScript. I don't have anything great there.
It's on them to figure out that whole
it's a
loop.
research project. It's an open source research project. Like everything comes through like Discord or like GitHub issues or whatnot. For clients that I work with consulting, because they're actually companies, I find that they're actually stuck in just even like being able to detect whether something is wrong. Like it's not even like a question of like their users complaining. Like they're so early stage where they're just like, help, did we like get this right? Like should I deploy that? But maybe that's just the people who sign up for consulting or people who are just don't have the comfort to even get there. But I think every single person that I talk to, you got to have some metrics. Whether or not they correlate very strongly with what users think and say, that's fine. But like having something there to look at is a first step. Yeah. And the other thing that it indirectly gives you is like if you've already instrumented your code, it's much easier to like add new evals. But people think about like, oh, like having to add evals to there. It's a huge thing because it is like adding observability and instrumentation is so hard.
I think there's like production failures, and then there's two parts. There's one is how do you assess what happened? And so we started with traces. So on the individual run, you can see what the agent did, like which tools it calls, what the reasoning was, the prompts, and all those things. And then the next step for us is how do you convert that into like a new scenario that you want to test? The problem that we had is that it's so manual to do the trace reviews, and so you drop into these traces at super low level, and so we built like a summarization or like a post-processing process that's completely, well, it's like part AI, part like deterministic, but it collapses and condenses and clusters all of these things together along many dimensions. So we'll see for the major groups of, and we focus heavily on the tasks, that's where most of our failures happen. Let's say one task is analyze the logs, in Datadog, or the next one is look at the conversations in the alerts channel over the last couple of hours or days. There's specific tasks that frequently reoccur, and then we try and cluster those, and then we look at metrics for, did the agent successfully call these APIs? I mean, even from like an engineering standpoint, are there like API failures? Yeah. Did it go into like loops? Did it get distracted? Was it efficient in finding or solving these tasks? And like many of these metrics, you don't need humans for feedback. Totally. It's completely like you can just parse the information. Yeah. And then from that, we build these heat maps. And then the heat maps, the rows are essentially tasks and like what the agent did, and the columns are metrics. And then you can see these like it's just lights up. Like, okay, the agent is really just sucks at this one thing. Like it sucks at querying metrics in Datadog.
You're not the only person who's doing the heat maps.
And it works when you see it. You're really like, well, how did we not do this before?
Yeah.
And then
you're like the third person who's told me that.
And then it's easy to write an eval because you're like, okay, I just need an eval that can, help us query Datadog metrics. And then the next problem we ran into was creating these evals sometimes took like a whole week because you need live prod infra. And so then we built like this is like a deeper topic, but like a simulation environment that modeled the production environment. So I was asking if you can get data dumps from your users because in our case we couldn't, and so we had to like innovate on like the eval layer, the simulation layer.
That's very interesting. People do send their pipelines and some data to us, so it's very easy to debug for us. But I think the simulation idea is super interesting.
Yeah, I really like that.
But it also feels very bespoke.
You mean for the use case, or yes,
and not even just like Datadog simulation. Datadog log retrieval simulation is different from like I don't know, like whatever other agents that you guys have. Like you probably have to build like an environment per agent to some extent, or build some spec per agent.
Sure, but so what we do is a little bit more akin to what like the SWE agent does with the SWE kit. And so you can have like there's a lot of similarity in the observability layer. So there's metrics, but there's like 20 different metric systems. But the idea of like a line graph or seeing metrics is not different. It's time series, right?
Yeah.
So you want your agent to operate at like the layer above that system. Of course, there's idiosyncrasies of the technology, but if you abstract that away, then there's transferability between those. So if you're good at like Datadog logs, you're probably good at OpenSearch logs.
And you don't have to change much.
You don't have to change much.
That's nice.
And so often you can get dropped into, you can just plug in an MCP for a new logging system. As long as the integration works, it'll have good performance. It's not going to be 10 out of 10. There may be some unique things.
Fix.
Yeah.